Good morning, readers. It is December 18th, and today is release day for She Told a Lie, which is book number 8 in the Zachary Goldman series. And as is usual for me on a release day, I'm going to do a short reading from the beginning of She Told a Lie. Zachary tried to stay in the zone he was in, just on the border between sleep and waking, for as long as he could. He felt warm and safe and at peace, and it was such a good feeling he wanted to remain there as long as he could before the anxieties of consciousness started pouring in. The warm body alongside his shifted, and Zachary snuggled in, trying not to leave the cozy pocket of blankets he was in. Kenzie murmured something that ended in "some space," and wriggled away from him again. Zachary let her go. She needed her sleep, and if he smothered her, she wouldn't be quick to invite him back. Kenzie. He was back together with Kenzie, and he had stayed the night at her house. It was the first time he'd gone there, instead of her joining him in his apartment, which was currently not safe for them to sleep at, because the police had busted the door in. It would have to be fixed before he could sleep there. Kenzie lived in a little house that was 100 times better than Zachary's apartment, which wasn't difficult, since he had started from scratch after the fire that burned down his last apartment. While he was earning more as a private investigator than he ever had before, thanks to a few high-profile murder cases, he wasn't going to sink a lot of money into the apartment until he'd built up a strong enough reserve to keep him going through several months of low income. Zachary had been surprised by some of the high-priced items he'd seen around Kenzie's home the night before. He supposed he shouldn't have been surprised, given the cherry-red convertible she drove, but he'd always assumed she was saddled with significant debts from medical school, and that she would not be able to afford luxuries. Maybe that was the reason she had never invited him into her territory before. She didn't want him to see the huge gap in their financial statuses. Once Zachary's brain started working, reviewing the night before and considering Kenzie's circumstances as compared to his, he couldn't shut it back off and return to that comfortable, happy place he'd been just before waking. His brain was grinding away, assessing how worried he should be. Did any of it change their relationship? Did it mean that Kenzie looked down on him, considered him inferior? That she had never treated him that way, but did she think it, deep down inside? Once he left her house, would he ever be invited back? He'd only been there under exceptional circumstances, and while he hoped it was a sign that Kenzie was willing to reconcile and work on their relationship again, as long as he was afraid that it might just have been one moment of weakness, one she would regret when she woke up and had a chance to reconsider. With his brain cranking away at the problem and finding new things to worry about, Zachary couldn't stay in bed. He shifted around a few times, trying to find a position that was comfortable enough that he would just drift back to sleep, but he knew it was impossible. His body was restless and would not return to sleep again so easily. He slid out of bed and squinted, trying to remember the layout of the room and any obstacles. The sky was just starting to lighten, forcing a little gray light around the edges of Kenzie's blinds and curtains. Enough to see dark shapes around him, but not enough to be confident he wouldn't trip over something. Zachary felt for the remainder of his clothes and clutched them to him as he cautiously made his way to the bedroom door and out into the hallway. He shut the door silently behind them so that he wouldn't wake Kenzie up. There was an orange glow emanating from the bathroom, so he found his way there without knocking over any priceless decor. He shut the door and turned on the main light. It was blinding after the nightlight. Zachary squeezed his eyes shut and waited for them to adjust to the light that penetrated his eyelids, and then gradually opened them to look around. Everything was clean and tidy and smelled fresh. Definitely a woman's domain rather than a bachelor pad like Zachary's. He needed to upgrade if he expected her to spend any time at his apartment. He'd used her ensuite the night before rather than the main bath, and even though it was more cluttered with her makeup and hair and bath products, it was also cleaner and brighter than Zachary's apartment bathroom. He spent a couple of minutes with his morning routine, splashing water on his face and running a comb over his dark buzz cut before making his way to the living room, where he'd left his overnight bag when he and Kenzie had adjourned for the night. He pulled out his laptop and set it on the couch while it booted up, wandering into the kitchen and sorting out her single-cup coffee dispenser to make himself breakfast. It was some time before he heard Kenzie stirring in the bedroom, and eventually she made her way out to the living room. She had an Oriental-style dressing gown wrapped around her. She rubbed she rubbed her eyes, hair mussed from sleep. Kenzie yawned. Good morning. Hi. Zachary gave her a smile that he hoped expressed the warmth and gratitude he felt toward her for letting him back into her life, even if it was only for one night. How was your sleep? Good. Kenzie covered another yawn. How about you? Did you get any sleep? Oh, I slept great. Zachary wasn't lying. He didn't usually sleep well away from home. For that matter, he didn't sleep that well at home either. But after facing off with Lauren's killer and dealing with the place, he'd been exhausted, and the comfort he'd found in Kenzie's arms and the luxurious sheets in her bed had quickly lulled him to sleep. There was a slight dip in the middle of her mattress, testifying to the fact that she normally slept alone, and that made it natural for them to gravitate towards each other during the night. It had been reassuring to have someone else in bed with him after what seemed like an eon of lonely nights. It was the best night's sleep he'd had in a long time. Okay, I'm going to leave you there. I also did a reading last week with what's coming next, so you can hop over to that as well if you like and get a little bit more of the story. So She Told a Lie is on sale at all of the ebook retail stores today. You can pick up your copy. There's another little picture there. And there will be links below. Also in my blog, then I have a bunch of other new releases listed that you might find interesting. So take a look at those too. Pick up some reading for the weekend and maybe for your Christmas holidays. And I will be back next week with a special Christmas blog and post. So I will see you then. Bye-bye.